Welcome to C. Myers Live. I'm Rob Johnson, president of C. Myers, and I'm excited to talk with you today about ALCO meetings. Now, I know what you might be thinking. You might be the only one excited to talk about ALCO meetings, Rob, because ours aren't that exciting. Well, hopefully that's not the case, but I have to tell you that based off of a presentation that I did a little bit ago with a couple hundred industry leaders, and it asked them the question, do you feel that your ALCO meetings are great? Are they incredibly productive? Raise your hand if you do. There was a lot of kind of laughing, snickering, looking around, and the reality was very few people raised their hands. And that's such a shame. And that is actually what led us to say that we need to be talking about this in a C. Myers Live because it shouldn't be that way. The reality is this should be one of your most valuable meetings. This is where strategy and ALCO focus have to come together to keep you on track throughout the year. These discussions should be forward looking. They should be connecting to your strategy throughout. It should demonstrate potential opportunities and risks, especially as things are changing in the environment around you, as things are changing inside the organization, as you look at what's happening with consumers. It should be then getting alignment across your teams. Where else is it that you deal with all the different key elements for the success of the organization and keeping them on track? It's so different than a very specialized, credit risk meeting or doing a committee for focusing on the ALCO or for what you're doing on the marketing side. Each of those are important, but this is where it all comes together because the credit risk and the operations and the ability to grow loans and the ability to grow funds, all of those things roll into what the ALCO is responsible for. What do you do if you are one of those who, when you hear this topic of ALCO and thinking, well, maybe I should be skipping this because they're not fun, it's not beneficial to me, then this is actually why you want to spend the next little bit hearing out some ideas and what you can do to change this. First, as you're thinking about this, I want you to picture the ALCO meetings that you've been in. And this is for those who are attendees and those who are responsible for leading the meeting. If you're an attendee, look around and say, well, okay, there are a lot of people in here. What must this cost? What does this meeting cost us right now? And think of what that cost is and say, are you turning that cost into a really good investment that is helping your organization? There's a lot of top talent in there. Your ALCO should be full of the top talent of the organization. If you're not turning it into a really good investment for the long run on the organization, then that has to be a high priority to change. What would we start with? One, a good survey. Now you might say, a good survey. I don't like taking surveys. They're not fun. Don't make it a pain. Make it quick, make it easy, and let's get on a scale of 0 to 10. Here are some key things that we want to make sure that we get out of an ALCO meeting and that the experience that happens in an ALCO meeting, how are we delivering on that? And everyone that participates in ALCO should actually be in a situation of, I need to answer this survey and answer it really honestly. Because if there are areas to improve, it's really hard to decide to improve them if no one knows it. So the survey for the ALCO meetings, I'm going to give you some ideas. We'll also put some in the show notes so you can see the list of the themes, and then use whatever tool you and your team are comfortable with for answering surveys. Do suggest, I think it's really nice to do that scale of 0 to 10. It really, 0 to 10 gives a lot of perspective and range as to how people are answering it. And then that can also help you see, where do we feel that we might be weakest? What are the 8 areas? 1, clarity. On a scale of 0 to 10, do you feel that you walk out of an ALCO meeting with a lot more clarity on key topics than when you walked in? 2, connection to strategy. Do you feel that that time was really connected to strategy? 3, engagement. How was the engagement in the meeting? Did it create energy? Was it exciting and beneficial where enough people engage from different areas so you're hearing different ideas. Financial acumen. You feel that the level of the discussion was such that all of the participants and the attendees were at a comfortable level of how to discuss the financial implications of the different things that are being talked about and connecting that back to strategy, understanding the ramification of things. If people aren't comfortable connecting the numbers to the strategy and the different actions you're taking and what you're looking to do out there in the market, then it can get in the way of valuable discussion. 5, do you have a windshield focus? I always like the analogy of thinking of driving a car. It's very important to have a rear view mirror. It's important, see what's happening behind you, what might be coming up on you. Very beneficial having side view mirrors, seeing what's happening around you. That might be what the competition is doing right now. But where you should spend most of your time driving is looking through that windshield. So do you have a strong windshield focus? Ask yourself as you're looking at the meeting, if you look at the agenda, what percent of the time are you allocating towards the windshield, looking forward on where you're trying to take the organization, not looking back or looking to the side? What we find is for many who don't enjoy their ALCO experience, it's because they spend the majority of their meeting time in that rear view mirror. Number 6, is the math that's being presented to you, or the answers and results being presented to you, giving a good lens for you from a short-term and long-term implication? For example, we find that, of course, you should be running different simulations as to what might happen to the organization's financial performance if the loan slowdown continues, or if loans keep taking off at this speed, or if deposits are continuing along this path, or if we were to change these rates. But what we find is, one, are enough simulations being run to help answer those questions so people can see and make an informed decision? But two, a lot of times those answers are very short-term focused. Maybe it's looking at a budget revision for the next year. But a lot of times, the ramification of the actions and the decisions you are making in ALCO, they're going to be with you much longer than a year. You're normally making larger decisions that will be with you for multiple years. So making sure that when you're looking at answers, when the math is being done, when you're looking at results, that it's not just looking short term, but it's looking long term at the outcome so that you can make an informed decision. Here's the reality: those who are feeling really good and successful today isn't because of the things that they did the last 6 months, even sometimes the last year. Normally, it's because of things they did 2 years ago and 3 years ago and the work that they did to position them for success right now. And those who are having challenges right now, many of those challenges were actually put into the structure over the last several years. So, as an ALCO, recognizing that, look further out. As you look further out, it can really help you avoid problems before they ever become problems. And oftentimes that short-term view just doesn't give you enough insight. Number 7, connecting back to the so what for each of the departments. If you're head of lending, do you walk away understanding the ramifications of not only the loan growth, but the loan pricing and how it works to support the strategy? The reality is that more loan growth can be a really powerful thing for an organization, but only if it's priced well. In light of other things that are happening with the funding of the structure and other situations such as, the overall liquidity profile and what the expectations are with the environment and what your risk profile looks like, is where are the needs of the organization. And so as you walk out of that room, do you have good clarity as to what's going to help the organization while also having in mind what your consumers might need and what you're looking to do for the future, connecting those dots? Same thing on the operation side, same thing on collections, as you're also looking at funding, all those things. Each of those areas, each of the areas of responsibility, those leaders, you need to walk out saying, now I understand and see even more what we need to be doing to help make sure that we're delivering on our part and we're connecting the dots. Because what happens from funding to lending, there's a huge connection and reliance here. Same thing with operations and the experience we're creating and what are we marketing. All of those things need to come together. So if you walk out of a meeting without a strong so what and without that clarity, then it can get in your way of really having the best value out of that ALCO meeting. So consider that when you're answering the survey. And then overcoming hurdles. I'd say, well, what do you mean overcoming hurdles? As you look at ALCO, normally the main part of the job of ALCO is to help the organization look ahead, see hurdles, and get over them faster and better, and also acknowledge hurdles that you had to go over recently. Now, did you trip over those hurdles? And if so, how do you do it better next time? But having the kind of mindset that we're going to keep having challenges come up, we're going to keep having hurdles to overcome. That doesn't mean that then the ALCO session should get frustrated by those hurdles, but rather should really be focused on how do we get more efficient at going over those hurdles well and making sure they don't slow us down too much for hitting our end strategy. By doing this survey and answering it honestly, it really helps you talk as a team about, are there changes we need to make? If you recognize that then there are changes in areas of improvement and you hit that head on, then it can make a much more valuable session. And by doing that, what that does is it can then position you to get agreements as to what are we going to change? Are there some quick wins that we should be focused on? Have we been walking into the meeting, or certain individuals walking into the meeting with, I'll say, different expectations than what you might want as a group from what every ALCO member should be bringing to the table? And so sometimes a quick win can be as easy as getting that clarity on what are the expectations from the team. What should individuals be doing and bringing to it? What kind of preparation should be done ahead of time? Are you bringing enough preparation to the table so that you are familiar with what's going on? You're looking outside of the organization and inside the organization, and you're applying critical thinking to your preparation so you can really add value to the conversation. As we also look at some other quick wins, one of the main areas that we find is on that, you mentioned earlier, number 4 was financial acumen. That do you personally, or are there people in your team, get sometimes challenged by all the different acronyms, the different language, the different numbers impact, the different ratios, some of the different calculations that are being talked about? And does that sometimes cause you to get distracted? What is that again? How is that? And or others in the meeting from not getting to see the picture as clearly because they're caught up in not feeling comfortable with the numbers, comfortable with the language. If that is the situation for you or others on your team, then do recommend work on that outside of the meeting. I'm going to encourage you, get some training, get some practice outside of the meetings. If you get comfortable in those areas, if you get comfortable with the language, it makes it so much more valuable on seeing the impact and understanding why that impact might happen. We do provide some really good, easy, free resources on our website where we have great napkin math, which are short videos helping to explain different calculations and the ramification of things. We have a lot of different topics in our blogs where you can search for them and read up on it. Happy to help and answer questions on that. We also have more advanced training classes and things like that if that's what you're looking for. But whatever it takes, and there are of course different resources out there, get the education to make sure that you're feeling comfortable with the topics so that you can really be part of a productive conversation. Now, everything that we've said so far is for, I'll say, all of the different attendees, whatever role you're in. If you're responsible for leading it, or you say, no, I'm just an attendee here, that really ideally you don't view things that way. You should view it as we are all participants. We're all here together as a committee and a team. If you are someone who is looking to be on the ALCO, also encourage do a lot of this preparation ahead of time. Really start connecting strategy to the different opportunities out there, the different impact that happens in different parts of the structure as you're looking at the organization. The more you get comfortable with the numbers, the language, the strategy, and critical thinking, then the more that helps you get into that ALCO role. Now, a little bit of thought for the leaders, those responsible, the leaders of the actual ALCO itself who are going to be facilitating the meeting. And I do like to think of it as facilitating the meeting, not presenting the meeting. The difference is facilitating is hopefully conjures up an image of we're going to be facilitating discussion, not that you're going to be presented to. Now, we'll say if you find that your culture or historically that's not how you did your meetings, it's up to you if you decide that what you need for the future is still to have a just a presentation style versus facilitating discussion. But for many, if it's not working well for you, going to encourage looking at that structure and that mindset to say, are we really positioned for facilitating a meeting that's going to lead to looking forward more and creating that engagement that we're talking about? Now, that doesn't mean that the entire time should just be a whole bunch of discussion and it's not leading to different actions and concrete decisions when needed. So we'll encourage you to stay on scope when you're having the facilitation there. I hope this helps you have more engaging meetings, stay connected to your strategy, help recalibrate your path throughout the year much more responsibly. If you need anything from us, if you have any questions, we love talking about these things and we encourage you to reach out to us. Thank you.